All right, so there's our function, and there's the graph we just saw from Desmos. And what they want, there's the answers already to this question. See the one that we already observed? Right? So as you look at the graph, see this answer of 1? That's right here, huh? That dot right there is at 1. This is 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So there's a place where the graph hits. Now, you've already learned that when a graph hits the axis, that means that's called a 0. See what they're saying? They're saying find the zeros. That's what this section is all about. This whole section is about finding zeros. And zeros are places where the graph hits and is at a height of 0. Like if that's a ball, right? Where the ball is at a height of 0. Ball hitting the ground, I mean. So it's all about finding zeros. And zeros are places it hits the axis. So we do the graph. We see one of them. But how do we find those other ones? How can I possibly find those other answers? I've got the one. How can I find the other ones, though? How's that going to work? Do you know what we have to do? We have to do synthetic division, which you guys enjoyed last time, right? It's easy for you. We have to do that because basically, here's the deal. Let me show you with numbers. Let me give you a logic for this. What if I told you, hey guys, I've got some big number, 30. It's not that big, huh? I got some number 30. Y equals 30, okay? And 2 goes in. 2 divides in evenly, which you already knew. You didn't need me to tell you that. But anyway, suppose, you didn't know everything about 30, and I said, hey, I've got this. I want you to find all the pieces in a 30 for me. You probably already know them off the top of your head. But let's suppose you didn't. And I said, hey, I want you to find all the little pieces that make a 30. Like, what times what makes 30? And you didn't know, let's say. And I said, I'm going to give you one of them to start off with. The number 2. 2 is one of the numbers that multiplies. We're looking for the numbers that multiply. What times what will equal the 30. The 30 equals what times what times what. And I'm telling you 2 is one of them. Right? I'm giving you one. How would you find the other 2? Now I know it's so easy you just know it off the top of your head. But what would you do if you didn't already know? What would you do with that 2? Knowing that 2 goes into 30. 2 is one of the answers. You divide. Yeah, wouldn't you divide? You see why we're going to do synthetic division? That's exactly what we're doing, but it's with x's instead of numbers. But it's the same idea. Yeah, you would totally divide. You would go 2 into 30, right? You would long divide. And how many times does 2 go into 30? 15 times, right? 2 times 15 is 30. You would get the 15. You'd say, oh, well, it's 2 times 15. Right? We took that 2 and we divided it into 30. And then what would you do with the 15? Then you would break it down, huh? What times what's 15? 5 and 3. And you'd be done. Then you'd have the 3 numbers. That's exactly what we're going to do, except we're going to do it with x's instead of with numbers. So you get that idea? So they're giving us something that's got a lot of stuff in it. They're giving it a big x expression that's got a bunch of stuff in it. And we're, what it's got in it, by the way, is it's got 3 things in it. And they're telling us one of the numbers that goes, where'd we get that one? Well, the 1, right here. We know from the graph one of the numbers that goes into it. And then we just need to find the other 2. Like when I gave you the 2 goes in, then you knew that we should divide, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do here. So let's go back now. Let me erase these numbers. And I'm going to say, okay, we know, so step 1, we know x equals 1 is a 0. It's one of the zeros. It's one of the places the graph has a height of 0. And we want to find the other 2. By the way, how do we know there's 3 of them total? Yeah, third power. The biggest power is third power. The power will tell you how many you're looking for. So we know there's 3 answers to this. Well, plus we see all the answers there too. That helps. But even without the answers, we would know there's 3 answers. And how do we find them? So we've got the first one. Now do synthetic division. synthetic division with your first answer, with your x equals 1. So let's do it. Remember synthetic division? So you put a 1 here, and we put our thing, right? All right, and now we take the coefficients. So here's the 8, and the minus 38, and the 55, and the minus 25. There weren't any zeros there, were there? Because we didn't skip any powers. Remember, when you take the test with synthetic division, if it skips one of the powers, you got to put a 0 in that spot, huh? But this one didn't skip any. It went from third to second to regular x to no x. So nobody skipped. All right, can you crank out the synthetic division real quick? Remember how that works? We bring down the 8, and then remember what we do? We multiply, and we write it right there. 1 times 8 is 8. And then we add them up. What's that going to be? Minus 30. And then we multiply. 1 times minus 30 is minus 30. And then we add them up again. That's going to be what? 25. And we multiply. 1 times 25 is 25. And that's 0. And that last column is the remainder. And it makes sense that we got a remainder of 0. We've got to get a remainder of 0. Why? Well, because that just proves that x equals 1 is one of the zeros, because it goes in perfectly with no remainder. Right? So that'll always happen. So, okay, great. So what now? Well, that means at this point that we know, we know what so far? We know that x minus 1 is our first, call it factor. Now, why minus 1? I thought it was regular 1. Remember when you do the parentheses? It's always opposite in the parentheses, isn't it? A positive 1 becomes minus 1 in the parentheses. You're used to that now, it'll just keep going. It's always opposite when you put it in a parenthesis next to x. So we've already got that answer. That's our first one. And we're looking for the other two answers. Well, what are they? Well, they're going to come from this stuff that's left. What is this stuff that's left? 25. Remember, the first one is just the plain number. The next one is x, and then it just goes up in power, 8x squared. You tracking with me so far? So what's left over is 8x squared minus 30x plus 25. In other words, our function y, or f, equals x minus 1 times that. That's what we're saying. Is that making sense? Why did that just happen? We're not done yet, but we got a little bit more to go. But why did I put the x minus 1 there? That's what it means. Remember what the example I gave you with the numbers, and I said, we got 30, and we know 2 goes in, so then we divided by 2, right? We said, okay, how many times 2 go into 30? We got 15. That means it's 2 times 15, huh? That's what 30 is. When you divide by something, the answer you get, those two things multiply to be that number, don't they? Did that sentence make any sense? Let me say that again. If you take a number like 30 and you divide by 2 and get 15, that means those two things together are your 30, right? That's what it means to divide something. You're finding the two numbers that multiply. So we just divided synthetic division by 1, which is really x minus 1, opposite in the parentheses. And we got 8x squared minus 30x plus 25. That means those two things multiply to be our original. If I was actually, we could do it right now. We could distribute that all the way out. It would go back to be the 8x cubed minus, it'd go back. We're finding what makes that thing. Maybe it's even worth it. I'll do it real quick and erase it. Just watch it real quick. I think it's worth it just to see the truth of this. I want you to really understand what it is we're doing, so it's not magical. If I was to take this and go boom, 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 watch. I'll just do it real quick. You don't have to write this down. I wouldn't write it down at all. 8x squared minus 30x. Wait, no, I'm already messing up. 8x cubed minus 30x squared plus 25x. I just multiplied that guy all the way through. Now the minus 1. Boom, boom, boom. Minus 8x squared plus 30x minus 25. Gather like terms. 8x cubed minus 30x squared minus 8 minus 38x squared. plus 25x plus 30 plus 55x minus 25. You see? It's the same as the original, isn't it? Do you see what we're doing? We're just breaking apart the original. So far, so good. We just have one more step to go. So I'm going to erase all that. That was not necessary. That was just to check and prove that what we're doing is true. So we're taking the original, and they told it, we saw from the graph that x equals 1 worked. So we did something that we divided by the 1, and we got 8x squared minus 30x plus 25 right here. So that means our original function is now x minus 1 times that 8x squared minus 30x plus 25. And now we have one more step. We have to actually finish breaking down that 8x squared minus 30x plus 25, and we'll be done. So we have x minus 1. Now we have to break this down, meaning it's going to break down to 2, because it's x squared, right? It's a second power piece, 8x squared. So we have to break that down to 2 things, don't we? So how can we do that? Well, this is where it's pretty hard. I know a lot of people are rusty on factoring. I'll show you with factoring, but I'm also going to do the quadratic formula, which I think you'll like a lot better, because factoring can be pretty tricky. It's guessing. If you guess right, that's great. If you don't, it can be painful. It's quicker. If you're a good factorer, you can snap it out. But the quadratic formula is really reliable. So what's going to work? Well, what multiplies to be 8x squared? 8x and regular x, but there's other options also. 4 and 2, huh? So 8x times x or 4x times 2x. How do we know which one? We guess. So that's why it's kind of like, you guess and you try, and if it doesn't work, you go back and try the other one. You just keep tinkering until it works. Now, the truth is, it's usually 4x and 2x. It's usually the numbers closer together. It's not usually 8x and x. Sometimes it is, though. Okay, and what multiplies to be 25? 5 and 5. So you put a 5 here and a 5 here. Now, is that right? Is that the answer? Well, these two are going to multiply, and these two are going to multiply. So, I don't know. Is it right? Let's just try it. Let's make them both minus and see if it's actually correct. You can just check it right here. Just these two. I'm not doing the x minus 1. I know he's good. I'm just going to check right here. I'm going to go boom, boom. This would be 8x squared minus 20x, and then boom, boom, minus 10x plus 25, right? And 8 times negative. These two in the middle make minus 30x. Yeah, it's good. It's right. It's true. That is the correct factoring, huh? Now, I know that's hard. A lot of people don't like that because it's painful. So instead, you could do the quadratic formula. So let me do that. Let me take that 8x squared minus 30x plus 25. So this is number 1 here. 8x squared, what was it? Minus 30x plus 25? Yeah. And then you can just do the quad. So, the quad, this is A, this is B, this is C. Negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So that'll work fine. So negative, just be careful on your signs. Negative 30, right? Negative from the formula, and then negative from the B. B squared minus 30 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. And so, what do we get from there? 30 plus or minus the square root. This is 900 minus, this will be 800 if you use your calculator and multiply these together. This will be 16. So that's 30 plus minus, this is the square root of 100 over 16. 30 plus or minus 10, square root of 100 is 10. All right, and then now, how do you finish it from here? You just actually do those two options, meaning 30 plus 10 over 16, or 30 minus 10 over 16. You just do the two different options, So that'll be 40 over 16. This will be 20 over 16. Then we just reduce those fractions. Divide top and bottom by 4. That'll be 10 fourths. Oh, and then 2. I should have done 8, huh? And I'll get there, though. 5 halves. This one top and bottom by 4. And that'll be 5 fourths. There's the other two answers. 5 halves and 5 fourths. That's what the answer key said, huh? So the quadratic formula gives you the other two answers, 5/2 and 5/4 on that. Let me go back over here where I did the factoring. You might look and go, well, how is this the same thing? Well, what it is, you've got to, if you want to get from here to get to these two answers, so I'm giving you two ways. I hope I'm not confusing you. I'm giving you two different ways. You can either do the quadratic formula or you can do the factoring. You don't have to do both, right? It's one, and I assume most of you will prefer the quadratic formula. That's fine. But if you're a really good factor, it is quicker. You can just write it down and you got it. But you might say, yeah, but how do I get from here to 5/4 and stuff? Well, you just set each of these equal to 0. That's what you would do at the very end. Because remember, these are zeros. These are zeros. These are what make y 0, right? See this point, and this point? They're all at a height of 0. Height is y. Y is height, huh? They're all at a y value of 0, meaning how do you make y 0? Well, you make any of those three things multiplying together be 0. Did that sentence make sense? Let me say it again. What if I said, hey guys and gals, I'm thinking of three numbers in my head. Okay, I am. Three numbers in my head, and I'm multiplying them, and the answer's coming out 0. What do you know about one of my numbers? 0. Yeah, if I'm multiplying three things and the answer's coming out 0, any one of them could be 0, huh? Right? If you're multiplying three things, if I'm saying, number times number times number is coming out 0, then the first one could be 0. 0 times anything would be 0. Or the middle one could be 0. Or the last one could be 0. Well, that's what this is saying, right? These 3 points are zeros. They're at a height of 0 on the graph, which means y is 0. Y is heights, right? Okay, so what? Well, that means y is 0. And these are three things multiplying, which means any of those three could be 0. So that's why I'm setting the middle one to 0. Add the 5 over, right? When you jump the -5 to the other side, it changes signs. Remember that? And then divide by the 4. There it is. 5/4. There's that answer. How about this one? Set that one equal to 0. Any of them could be 0, right? If any of them are 0, you'll find your zeros. 5/2. There's the other one. And we've already got the x minus 1 equals 0. That's 1. We've already got it. We've had that one from the beginning. We found the 3 zeros. Those are the 3 places where the graph hits 0. Hey, do they look right? Do they look sort of right? I mean, what is 5/4? Let's go back real quick. If you divide 5/4 on your calculator, it's 1 1/4, isn't it? Which point is that looks like on the graph is about 1 1/4? The left one, the middle one, or the right one? Middle. Yeah, that middle one is just past 1, isn't it? Looks like 1 1/4, 5/4. And this one is 5/2. That one, 2 goes into 5. That's 2.5 is what that is. 2.5. That looks like it's the one on the right, huh? This one right here. It's right in the middle between 2 and 3. That's 2.5, which is the same as 5 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5 2.5 times, huh? We good there? So we just found the 3 zeros. So that's how we do it. We get 1. So what are the 2 steps? Step 1, you get one of them from the graph. Step 2, divide by that one. Get another expression, 8x squared minus 30x minus 25. And then either factor it or take it to the quad and get your other answers. Shall we try it? Here's number 2. So there's your function. So give that a try. So I'm giving you the graph. And on the exam, I'll do the same thing. On the exam, I'll just give you the graph, just like that, a little snapshot of the graph. But on your homework, you're going to have to use Desmos to get your own graph. But it's good practice. It's good to learn if you want to go the way of STEM to learn to use that most popular free graphing program. Super easy to use. So look, which one of those answers do we automatically, which one's a clean hit right through? At 4, huh? Just use that one. We don't care about the other ones. 4, right here is a clean hit. So step 1, x equals 4 is certainly one of our zeros. And of course, we have the answer, so yeah, clearly. Now, how do we find the other 2? Do synthetic division, right? So I'm going to let you do that. All right, so we're going to do the synthetic division. with the 4. Put in the coefficients, 6 minus 25, 3 and 4. We bring down the 6, and we begin. We multiply. 4 times 6 is 24. Add them up, minus 1. And then we go again. And we multiply. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Add them up, negative 1. And then we do the third one. And we multiply. 4 times negative 1, negative 4. Add them up, 0. We were expecting that. 0 remainder, huh? Okay, so what does that... So we just divided. We just divided the original polynomial. And what do we have left? We have 6x squared minus x minus 1, don't we? We good so far? And of course, the original, which was x minus 4. You don't have to put that one there, but I just like to keep it all together. So far, this is what we know. We're breaking down our original function. So right now, we know it's x minus 4, because it's always opposite in the parentheses. And that's 6x squared minus x minus 1. Now you can try to factor that thing, or you can jump into the quad to finish off that x squared. There's 2 more zeros hiding in there, right? So I'll probably just go to the quad. So that's going to be negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so that's going to be, this is my a. My b is negative 1, huh? And c is also negative 1. So negative 1, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 1 squared, b squared, minus 4. Am I getting kind of tiny over there? Let me make it a little bigger. Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 6, times c, which is minus 1, all over 2a. You guys will be pros at the quad by the time you're done with this section. Okay, so watch all the signs. That's the main thing that gets people, is all those little signs. Bring it down here. So the 2 negatives, positive 1, as you know, plus or minus square root. Right here, now that negative 1 is in parentheses, huh? So when we square that negative 1, it becomes positive 1, right? Positive 1. Now, watch the signs over here. Here's the main place people mess up on the quad. Right here, just count the minuses. Minus 4, plus 6, minus 1. See those 3 that are multiplying there? Minus 4, plus 6, minus 1. So just count. You have 2 minuses. What's that section going to be? 2 minuses? Going to be positive, huh? Positive 24. 4 times 6 is 24. Times 1 is still 24. And so that equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 12, which is 1 plus or minus 5. Square root of 25 is just 5. Bring that down. So that into 2 options, 1 plus 5 over 12 or 1 minus 5 over 12. And so that is 6 over 12, and this is minus 4 over 12. And then just reduce those fractions. Divide by 6, top and bottom, it's a half. Divide by 4, top and bottom, it's minus a third. Sure enough, those are the other 2 zeros. We found all 3 zeros. And it looks like those are the places where the graph hits 0, huh? This one's at 4. This one looks like it's about a half, positive a half. This one's only back a little bit, back a third. Those are the 3 places. You can see the whole graph on Desmos. I just grabbed the part that's by the x-axis there, the part that we needed. I kind of chopped it off. But those are the 3 places that function hits 0. We found the zeros. All right, so try that one. Start by looking at the graph and getting your first 0 from the graph. Don't look at the answers. Don't look there. You looked there, huh? No, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. But just look at the graph, but make sure you can read that 3 off the graph, right? This 3 right there. So let me jump in there for you on this one. So using synthetic division with the 3, we see the answer 3 right here. And so it's going to be 1, minus 5, 4, and 6. And then we bring down the 1, and we multiply and put it right there. 3, add them up, minus 2, and swing it around again. Multiply 3 times minus 2 is minus 6, add them up, minus 2, and swing it around again. Multiply 3 times minus 2, minus 6, sure enough, 0, that's what we expect. That proves it's really a 0, right? Remainder is 0. So what do we have right now? So this is step 1. Step 2, we have y equals x minus 3. That's that first one. And now we have what? 1 x squared minus 2x minus 2. Don't we? So 1x squared minus 2x minus 2. So now we have to finish breaking down that last parenthesis. It won't factor. It turns out if you try to factor, it just won't even factor. You have to do the quad there. So let's do the quad. So negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A is 1. B is negative 2. C is negative 2. So plug them in. Negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus. I'm gonna kind of run out of room here, aren't I? Let me bring it down here. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Okay, keep going. Well, we got 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 8. Did you guys get that? Because it's minus 4 times minus 2. Back there, 2 negatives make a positive 8. Kind of watch your signs closely. Just count the negatives. 2 negatives make a positive. And so that is 2 plus or minus root 12 over 2. Now, how do we simplify the square root of 12? Do you remember simplifying roots? Roots are a 2-for-1 deal at Target, right? Remember that? So I take that square root of 12 and I break it down 4 times 3, and that's 2 times 2 times 3. So the square root of 12 is the square root of 2 times 2 times 3. Right? 2 times 2 times 3. Those are the pieces that make a 12. 2 times 2 times 3, 4 times 3. And then it's a 2-for-1 deal. So 2 2's in, send 1 2 out. So I'm going to bring this over here. This becomes 2 plus or minus 2 root 3 over 2. Right? That root 12 becomes 2 root 3, doesn't it? 2 in, 1 out. All right? And now, how do we simplify this thing? Yeah. You can. Yeah, when the 3 outside the root numbers are, if they're all divisible by the same thing, you can do it, right? We got the glue on the top, the Costco plus or minus glue, but that's okay. As long as we're buying both sides of the glue, the whole package, it's okay. As long as they both divide, all 3, I should say, divide. Yeah, divide by 2 leaves a 1. Divide by 2 leaves a 1. Divide by 2 leaves a 1. So it's 1 plus or minus root 3 over 1, but you don't need that 1 on the bottom anymore. Dividing by 1 doesn't do anything. So the other 2 answers are 1 plus root 3 and 1 minus root 3. Sure enough, there they are. Those are the other 2 zeros along with the original 0, 3. We found the 3 zeros. 1 plus root 3, 1 minus root 3, and plane 3 itself. Is that good there? Is that making sense?